The scene returns to Amaka's office. Now deep in research mode, she's making calls, visiting archives, and piecing together every scrap of evidence. The background music is somber yet persistent, underscoring her determination. Amaka, into the phone, determined. Yes, I need the complete records from the hospital for that night, anything that mentions a baby adoption. Please, this is very important. A montage unfolds, shots of Amaka poring over dusty records, her fingers tracing faded ink, and NKM assisting by scanning old documents on a photocopier. The passage of time is depicted by the changing light through the office windows. With every new piece of information, Amaka's hope wavered between excitement and dread. The truth was close, so close that each tick of the clock threatened to shatter her already fragile heart. The rustling of old paper, a distant ticking clock, and the low hum of a ceiling fan. The lighting is dim, with dusty rays filtering through a high window. Amaka stands before a large, weathered record book, her hands trembling as she carefully turns each page. In a room where secrets slept among forgotten records, Amaka saw the truth that had haunted her for decades. The hospital archives, an unlikely sanctuary for memories of loss and lies. Amaka's inner voice overlays the scene. Amaka, voice over, pained whisper. Every faded line, every handwritten note, they promised answers. But could I bear the truth that lay hidden in these pages? The administrator, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a hint of regret in his voice, enters the frame. Administrator, hesitant, measured. Madam, these records, they're incomplete. Much has been lost over time. But he pauses, flipping to a marked page. There is mention of an adoption. A baby boy taken in by a woman in Anambra, Madame Florence. Amaka's eyes widen as the name triggers a cascade of buried memories. The camera focuses on her trembling hand as it caresses the record. Madame Florence, the name once uttered with hope and now laced with betrayal. The record spoke in half-truths, hinting that the child she mourned might have been given a new life, far from the promises of a family that could not bear the weight of their own expectations. A soft, haunting piano melody begins, emphasizing the gravity of the moment as Amaka's inner turmoil intensifies. Amaka, voice over. If he wasn't dead, then where had he gone? What price had I paid for the silence? The scene slowly fades out as Amaka closes the record book with a heavy sigh. Madame Florence's home. The scene transitions to a quiet, modest home in a suburban area of Anambra. The evening sky is a deep indigo, punctuated by distant city lights. The gentle sound of children playing and crickets chirping fills the air. Amaka's car pulls up slowly as she gathers her courage. With every step toward Madame Florence's home, Amaka felt the weight of the past pressing down on her. Tonight, the truth would no longer remain in the shadows. Amaka exits her car, her heels clicking on the pavement. She hesitates at the doorstep before knocking. The door creaks open to reveal Madame Florence, a woman whose weathered face tells tales of both strength and sorrow. Madame Florence, calm but cautious. Amaka, it's been a long time. I knew you would come eventually. Amaka steps inside. The interior is modest, filled with old photographs, mementos, and a lingering aroma of incense. The atmosphere is heavy, as if the walls themselves remember. Amaka, voice trembling, determined. You lied to me. All those years, I believed my child was lost. Yet now, the records speak his name. My son, he is alive. Where is he, Florence? Madame Florence's eyes lower, regret and resignation evident. She gestures for Amaka to follow her to a quiet sitting room. Madame Florence, softly. Sit down, Amaka. There is much you do not know about that fateful night. I did what I had to, under orders I could not refuse. Amaka sinks into an old armchair, her hands clenching the fabric as the gravity of the moment settles in. Between them, the air vibrated with the sound of unspoken truths. Madame Florence's role had been dictated by circumstances far beyond her control, a bitter decree from the family of the one who would become a lie and a legacy. Madame Florence takes a slow breath, her voice laden with sorrow as she begins to recount the past. Your family, they were desperate. Your mother, burdened by her own fears, insisted that the child was beyond hope. She believed you could never raise him alone. I was entrusted with a decision, one that would spare you pain, or so I thought at the time. A long pause ensues as Amaka absorbs the words. Her face shifts between anger and deep, aching sorrow. Amaka, whispering, pained. I lost him. I cried for him, prayed for him every night. And now, to learn that he was stolen away, not by fate, but by a choice, by my own blood. Madame Florence reaches out, placing a trembling hand on Amaka's. The contact is both a comfort and a reminder of the irreversible betrayal. Madame Florence, voice cracking. I regret that day, Amaka. Every moment since, I have carried the burden of that decision. I was ordered to tell you he was dead so that you might live without the constant agony. But secrets have a way of finding the light. The soft glow of a table lamp flickers between them as the scene deepens with raw emotion. In that modest home, truth and betrayal intermingled. Each word from Madame Florence was a blade cutting through years of false hope, leaving scars that would take a lifetime to mend. The scene lingers on their intertwined hands, before slowly transitioning as the evening deepens. Madame Florence's living room, night. Inside the living room, a wall clock ticks steadily as rain begins to patter against the windows. The room is dim, lit primarily by a single lamp. Madame Florence and Amaka sit across from each other. The tension is palpable. Night had fallen, and with it, the final layers of deception were about to be peeled away. In the silence, the echo of a lost child filled every corner. Amaka's eyes, filled with a mix of fury and heartbreak, searched Madame Florence's face for answers. Amaka, voice shaking with emotion. Who adopted him, Florence? Who took my son into their arms and raised him as their own? Madame Florence takes a deep, shuddering breath. For a long moment, the only sound is the ticking clock and the distant patter of rain. Madame Florence, softly, with remorse. He was given to a kind-hearted woman, one who believed she could offer him the love I could not. His name is Chinedu. Amaka's hand flies to her mouth in shock. A single tear escapes, trailing down her cheek as she struggles to comprehend the revelation. Amaka, barely audible, a broken whisper. Chinedu. My Chinedu. The camera slowly zooms in on Madame Florence's face, now filled with a mixture of regret and sorrow. I did not choose this path lightly. I was merely a messenger, a tool used by your family. They believed that separating you from your child would protect you from an unbearable truth. Amaka's emotions cascade between disbelief, rage, and overwhelming grief. The narrator's voice underscores the moment. The bitter irony of fate, the woman who had nurtured a forbidden love was now confronted with the undeniable reality that the man she had come to cherish was, in truth, the child she had lost. A flashback sequence overlays the dialogue, a montage of Amaka's memories, the day she was told her child died, her desperate cries in the hospital, the quiet moments of solitude where she held on to hope. The flashback fades as the present conversation continues. Amaka, voice quivering with anguish. All my life, I believed I was alone in this grief. And now, knowing that my son lives, that I unknowingly fell in love with him. How can I ever forgive this fate? Madame Florence reaches out again, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. Madame Florence, softly. I am sorry, Amaka. I truly am. I have carried this secret, and every day I wished I could undo the pain. But secrets, once born, have a way of unraveling even the strongest hearts. The ticking clock, the low murmur of the rain, and the heavy silence create an atmosphere where every word is etched with sorrow and regret. In that dimly lit room, the past and present collided. The betrayal was not only of blood but of trust, a trust that would forever be marred by the revelations of that night. The scene slowly fades to black as both women sit in silence, the enormity of the truth settling like a shroud over them. Aftermath, the long road home. The scene shifts to the quiet of a rain-soaked road. Amaka, alone in her car, drives slowly. The soft hum of the engine, the rhythmic sound of rain against the windshield, and the distant city lights create a somber mood. With the revelations echoing in her mind, Amaka's journey had only just begun. The road ahead promised no simple answers, only more questions and the looming weight of irreversible change. Inside the car, Amaka's face is a canvas of raw emotion, sorrow, regret, and a fierce determination to reclaim her truth. Her phone rings, and she hesitates before answering. Amaka, softly, into the phone. Hello. It is NKM, her trusted confidant. Her voice is filled with concern. NKM, over the phone. Amaka, I've been trying to reach you. How are you holding up? Amaka, sighing deeply. I'm not sure I can ever go back to the way things were, Nkem. Today, I learned that my son, my lost child, was not taken by fate, but by decisions made in secrecy. And his name is Chinedu. A long pause as the weight of the confession settles in. The rain intensifies as if echoing her grief. NKM, gentle, resolute. This is more than just a revelation, Amaka. It's a turning point. You must decide, do you embrace this painful truth, or let it shatter what's left of your soul? Amaka grips the steering wheel, tears mingling with the raindrops on the glass. Amaka, voice wavering but determined. I must face it. I owe it to him and to myself to know every part of this story, no matter how much it breaks me. The camera shifts to the rearview mirror, capturing Amaka's strict face as the cityscape blurs past. Her inner monologue overlays the scene. Amaka, voice over. Every choice has its price. I have spent years burying my pain, believing I had lost him forever. Now, the bitter truth stands before me, and I must choose to let the past define me, or to fight for a future built on honest, painful reality. The scene ends as Amaka's car disappears into the rain-soaked night, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of uncertainty and anticipation. In the silence of the night, Amaka's journey of rediscovery and redemption began anew. The path ahead was shrouded in sorrow, yet within that darkness lay the possibility of healing, and a love that defied even the cruelest twist of fate. To be continued. Please thanks for watching my video, comment your view on the comment section, like and follow for more. Thank you.